All right, all right, all right. How we doing, everybody? Hello, hello. Hold on, let me crank my volume just a little because it's quiet. Bam, there we go. All right, how we doing, everybody? How are we today? How is it going? How are you on this fine, quiet Thursday afternoon? I know some people are watching international games. I cannot be bothered right now to try and keep up with everything. It's just been crazy. Just too much other things going on and not enough attention to think about the international games so much. But I hope you are all doing well, and I hope that all of you watched the video from earlier today. I think it's a really, really good video that is somewhat going to be relevant for the next few months, probably, and we're going to keep coming back to that, adding more names, removing names, starting to narrow things down, but looking as well at the overall plan. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I don't have a huge separate subject to discuss, but I wanted to run through all of it. And again, I'm not going to run through the whole video or anything like that, but I really, really, really recommend, that you watch that earlier video to get an idea of really what's happening so you're up to speed on everything as well. But yes, I hope you're all fine and dandy on this Thursday. Good to see you all here. RSV, Frank, Simon, Levi, 50, Fred, Asa, Naveen, and welcome, Callum. You joined before I went live, but welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, I see Ronaldo getting sent off in Ireland up 2-0 up. So congrats to all the Irish, which we have plenty of in our community and in this channel, on what looks like a pretty good win. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good win. But yeah, look, United are in a spot where I feel as though, we are just a few key players in the starting 11 from having a team, maybe not that can win a title, but will start to be really building up towards and you look at it and you go, it should be able to build towards what we need in the future. It should be able to build towards what we're looking for. It should be able to build to being competitive, and it might need depth, and it might need this, and it might need that. There's something there in terms of the squad. And I want to reiterate again, when Ineos and Wilcox and them came in, this was what they set out to do, which was to say, what is the actual plan here, right? Because every summer we clamor, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. But they really looked at it and said, let's see, what is everything we need? And as far as I know, they laid it out like a lot. We want 4 center backs, 2 midfielders, wing backs, 4 new forwards, all sorts of stuff. And they've been just steadily moving through the plan as needed in order to hopefully get it all done at the end of the day. So if you watched the earlier video, let me pull this up just so you can kind of see. We went through a lot of the names here of what we were looking at, in terms of the sixes. There's Buwadi and Yeoman and Yarmouk and, João Gomez, we've talked about a bit recently, Baleba, Wharton, Anderson. They've got all these names and people that we're looking at. And it's just, it's kind of exciting because if they pull this off and they can add 2 of these players to the midfield, and then, you move to I don't know about some of these 8s, are questionable, but you move to center backs and some of the names that we've looked at here, if we can add these types of players to the team, then there's something serious here, man. There is something really, really serious going on, that we have the capability of building something quite special, in my opinion, if we can finish this sort of project, this rebuild, and pull it off. How much money do we have in January? Well, there's not really an exact limit. It's they have the flexibility and the capability to spend. I've seen some other people, magically suddenly have this knowledge. But as I've said on João Gomez, he's a player that there is potentially could be available, could be a release clause relevant to relegation, could be some other factors. And that might mean that Wolves are leaning towards, shoot, we might need to cash in now in January. If I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's just one to think about. We keep following on the Elliot Anderson thing. João Gomes would be like the best player possible that we could look at, that I would say we should try in January. I think we've already looked at, you know, the Anderson, Wharton, such, and said it's just not going to be possible. I feel that United should try for João Gomes in January. I really hope they do, because I feel like, especially if Wolves are still bad, let's say, you know, we get a chance to beat them 2 times in the next month or so. If they're still in the bottom 3, we should push for João Gomes and see if we can get a deal done in January for him. We really should. I think there would be an opportunity to do something where they might think, hey, we're going to get less in the summer. We could cash in now, maybe reinvest in some goal scoring or something like that. You know, I would love to see that personally. That would be probably one of the best moves that is possible to make in the summer. But there's so many players, you know, that we can look at and discuss and talk about in terms of what they do, things like that as well. Does getting Gomez mean that we give up on Wharton? No, I don't think so, because you take someone like, you know, there's a few players on the list that we've talked about that I think you're saying, yeah, that guy probably only plays on that position. Like if you buy an Adam Wharton, you've got to have somebody who can play further forward, like more of an 8, more of a box-to-box next to him, because Wharton is going to play deep. But there's a few players that are much more flexible than that. And there's also the factor of, listen, who the hell's going to be here next year in that midfield? I don't know. You know, you take this Casemiro situation. Sure, like I said, it's been an idea. Be cool to keep him on low wages. Is that in Casemiro's plans? Don't know. There's a real world where, of course, Casemiro could, like many others, go cash in somewhere else, be it in Italy, be it, you know, in the States here, coming to the MLS and getting a big payday. We don't know. You know, there's opportunities for him in there. And from the early reports, it sounds like he wouldn't want to take less. Well, United aren't going to be offering him more than 150 or something like that, probably less than that, to be quite honest. So there's a world where a ton of these players leave, you know, and we end up in a situation where we need a lot of midfielders. So, you know, it may be, I mean, we could end up needing so many midfielders, you know, at the end of the day. But, you know, it's interesting to look at like some of the statistics here, like João Gomes and Buwadi. You can see really they rank really highly in the same areas we like: winning the ball, good in possession, things like that. Whereas you can see someone like Yeoman is much more like a bit like Casemiro in profile, high progressive passing, high dual winning, but ultimately not great on the ball, passes it not great carrying, dribbling, things like that on the ball, passes forward. So it's interesting to kind of compare all of these different midfielders and look at their profiles and things. You can see like Wharton and Yeoman are probably more like in the Casemiro vein of like pick up the ball deep, they can spray it around almost like a deep lying playmaker. Whereas you've got guys like João Gomes and Buwadi that are more like they want to carry the ball, they want to sit on it a bit. And Baleba as well, to be fair. He's in a similar thing. Even though he's having a tough-ish season to some degree, he's in a similar vein in terms of what type of player he is. They're all kind of matching there. I think we need more of this. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and looking at where exactly we're struggling the most in the midfield, where we're hurting, where we need more of something. What we need in that deeper role is someone who can sit on the ball a little bit. We need somebody who can stand on that fucking ball, pull it out of a press, dribble a little bit, carry the ball into unthreatening areas, walk it up the pitch a little bit more, evade that pressure, and get where we need to be, right? I think we lack that. I think we lack that more than anything. I think Baleba and it makes still a lot of sense in that respect, but I think Gomez might be a much more obtainable, more affordable target that could even be gotten earlier. That would also not hinder you from getting that second midfielder in that can be, again, as I see it, more of like a Bruno replacement for the long term. That's my view on it. That's what I see. But when I was looking at the stats the other day in terms of the progress that United have been making and where they were still bad, because I was trying to figure out what is the reason we can't hold possession, we can't, keep the ball, we still concede too many chances, all of that, and it's a lot of that. When you start to look into our carrying stats, they're bottom. Low pass completion percentages and low carrying stats. That means we're playing a lot of risky balls, and it's not just the volume of carrying. I'm talking about efficiency stats. When you start looking into the details of what a team is good and bad at, we're really, really poor when it comes to most stats that have to do with bringing the ball forward, just being on the ball in terms of dribbling. It's hard to almost explain it, but let me see if I can find the numbers on this. You take a look at stuff like this, like our take on success rate. Look at the numbers. We're down here, 38%, bottom half. Tackled during take-ons, high, 53%, highest up there. You look at successful dribbles, bam, we're all the way down here. Half as many as guys like City, people who can actually evade the press. And a lot of this you have to say is the midfield. If you look at City, Tottenham, Brighton, Chelsea, what are you getting out of, and Arsenal, what are you getting out of that? Their midfielders can carry the ball. They can dribble out of pressure. You look at carries as a whole, we're bottom half. You look at distance, bottom half. Progression, bottom half. A little higher in terms of number of carries. Carries into the final third, bottom half. Carries into penalty area, a little higher. So that tells you the forwards are definitely carrying the ball. They're the ones carrying it into the final third, but not, or into the penalty area, but not the midfield, not deeper.
I really wish this Gallagher rumor can go away.
People really don't like the Gallagher one. I get that. If you look at missed controls, we're third from the top. If you look at dispossessions, we're nearing in the top. So it's just a matter of this is our issue. This is one of the major issues in the team. And you look at pass percentage too, it's not just long passing. We're bottom half in completion on short passes. We're bottom half completion. We're bottom 3 in medium pass completion, and we're actually up in long passes. So when you look at this team, what it's doing well and what it's doing poorly, it starts to become rather obvious, and I think you see what we need in the middle. Right now, we've got guys who are launching the ball, first-time passes, cannot take the sting out of it, cannot evade the pressure, cannot dribble, cannot beat the press, cannot do a lot of that stuff. And then we also complete too few passes. So why are we receiving so much threat? Why are we, conceding so many chances? Why, when we take leads, do we start to fall apart when teams come after us? Because we just can't control the ball the way that other teams do. It's all of our stuff is too risky. It's too low percentage, and it works that. You've been talking about needing a press-resistant ball-carrying midfielder. We have one of those at home. I hear you. There's only one problem. They also have to be really good out of possession defensively. But I also think Kobbie Mainoo could work better if paired with another strong in possession, strong out of possession midfielder. Right now, the problem is if you try to pair him with Bruno, you're asking him to do way too much out of possession work. A lot of this comes down to Bruno. It just does. I said the other day, some people didn't like the way I worded it, but I'm serious. If you are playing in a midfield with Bruno out of possession, it's hopeless. You're going to get overrun. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to get overrun. And so the best bet is to be a deep sitting shield, to just block off some of the passing angles and things like that. It's just the facts, right? So it's too much for Kabi. It takes a different skill set for him to play next to someone like Bruno. But we really, really need for Kabi to work. I think if you were to get players like Anderson, João Gomez, these types of guys who are doing a lot of defensive work in addition, then Kabi starts to make a lot of sense. A midfielder who can receive the ball, who can turn around under pressure, do all sorts of things like that we need, but doesn't have the entire burden of defending the midfield on him. There's another factor in this. In this team-wide sort of thing, and it is, wrong button. It's this. We need a defender. We need more defenders who can play with the ball. We need more progression to play with the ball. Ruben was saying the other day that we still need more of this out the back. You know what I'm saying? We still need more of this out the back. We still need to be able to dictate more play out the back, because then we're not going to be so reliant on the midfield to progress the ball. And I want to show you this. I want to show you, this how we can kind of demonstrate that United aren't that good at this yet. So take a look and take Luke Shaw here. Luke Shaw's our best at it right now. Carrying the ball, forward passing, progressive passing. He's doing a lot. De Ligt is incredible defensively, but he has the lowest progressive passes numbers, like 6, that's Lenny. 13th percentile for progressive passes right now, okay? Lenny's is not high. None of this is high enough, right? So when you go back to like midfielders, what does that mean? That means you're putting a lot of the progressive burden on Casemiro and Bruno to push the ball forward. If we can get more passing out the back, then we don't necessarily need so much passing through the middle, if we can improve on that, right? And so this is what Amram is talking about in terms of evolving in the next step and picking things up for De Ligt. If United can get more passing out of the back, it'll not only match the way that Amram wants to play more, but it will also reduce the burden on the midfield to progress the ball, which will means we have different options. We can play more dribbling, press-resistant midfielders in the vein of a Kabi Menu, and we can still control the game, get the ball up the pitch. But if the back can't play the ball, then the middle has to. And so we're still sort of in this transitional phase, and a part of fixing this team as a whole is getting better midfielders who are good out of possession and in possession to support the defensive burden while also being able to move the ball, carry the ball, etc. in the midfield, but also settling and upgrading still on that back line to ensure we get those kinds of progressions through the team. So we're in that transition at the moment, and that is why they all go hand in hand to finish this team, and there's still another level for this team to go up and another progression tactically in controlling games that we can see when we have more of the right profiles in the team. But we don't have them yet. That's why there's this big plan. Once it gets done, we will. If you can add those two midfielders plus a really good ball-playing center back and start to keep developing Lenny and De Ligt and such into these roles of being progressive center backs, then we can play quite a different midfield, and I think we'll find it to be much more settled and balanced. If we go back to it, right, like you look at someone like Gonzalo Inacio, look, this is under Ruben, top in the league for progressive passing. Debast, you can see the same thing. You know what I mean? You can see it with these guys that like he's had in his team. Let me do Diomande for last year. Like just so you get an idea of it. Diomande being in the center was a little bit less, but you know, you can see these are progressive monsters that he had out the back there. So that's essentially one of the things that we need in order to take that kind of step forward, right, into like the next thing. So you look at someone like Schlotterbeck, obviously would be quite crazy. You look at someone like Lukeba, similar kind of map in there, who could do it. Obviously, we were interested in Braithwaite plays for Everton, a little different, but he is quite a capable passer, and that's probably off the table right now. If you look at someone like Gahey, can he? Yeah, look, he's also quite a capable passer, playing in a very defensive side, but look at his progressive passing out the back. So this is really the profile of center back that United are very much going to be in the market for and looking for moving forward. And I see that as the next phase in progression for United is that progression aspect. Now, look, there's and this is where, like, when we look at this, if we look at Lenny Yoro, for example, you know, he's having a little bit of a tougher year this year in adjusting. However, like if we look at last season, we saw it a lot of times, especially late on in the season, that Lenny was starting to get more aggressive with the ball, bringing it forward, passing it forward, carrying it forward, running with it more forward. This year, it's a little lower, but he's still doing as many progressive passes and as many carries, just falling off a little bit. But we need some of that, more of that from him, because I know he's capable of it. And you can see, in fact, oftentimes Maguire this season is not even like progressing the ball forward at all. Or last, frankly, he was more like being used as like a striker. I don't know if Lissandro has any. Yeah, we probably don't have any stats for Lissandro in here, unfortunately, because it's just the last couple of years. But it's just an interesting look at how things go, you know, and what they really want, you know, and I'm quite curious in this respect. But this is sort of the next phase, I think, of the Emram rebuild. And if you watch this and finishing the team, upgrading out the back and passing, and improving in the middle then to get and keep the ball. And that's why I would really like to see us keep Mainu. And that's why I would really like him to be patient. And that's why I really think if he can wait it out, there is going to be a role for him. Because when we improve in these areas, he'll become a valuable part of what is wanted out of the midfield at United, even though at the moment he's not. Because we're needing to play with the ball in the middle so much and pass through the middle, he's not that guy. Once we step up from the back, what he provides, I think, will become infinitely more valuable. I just hope he has the patience and that we can get through this period of time. You know what I mean? That's all. I really hope that, you know, he can get through this period of time successfully without it being too crazy. Let's see something here. So if you look at like here's an interesting chart. If you look at like the most progressive center backs in the league, you can see Senesi over at Bournemouth is all the way up there. Van Heck all the way up there. Definitely some interesting players to look at. You can see where Shaw is. He's doing a good job of this. LaCroix is all the way down here, by the way. Very, very low. But he plays in such a defensive team, it's hard to measure, you know, it's hard to measure up on Palace's side of things. But there's some good ones in here, you know. Someone suggested this guy at Wolves. There's Gahey. He's in there in a good spot. Murillo is a good center back as well. He's one I wouldn't mind United taking another look at Forest. He's very, very good. So anyway, it's just interesting, you know, in this respect. Chris Wilder used to use his wide CB so well. Yeah, there's quite a few that have played a bit of this way, and it's definitely, you know, what we're looking for. You know, it's definitely what we're looking for. And yes, so I don't know, man. It's just it's intriguing, all of this, but this is the next phase. You can kind of see where's Murillo. I just pointed him out. You can see kind of the next phase that Amram and this team need to go, improving the whole situation, improving the play out the back, which will give us more options in the middle. I'm trying to look for what I can look at in the midfield that might give us ball carrying, not dribbles attempted. Aggressive carries per 90, maybe. And then offensive duels 1%. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. It has some forwards on here, which is part of the annoying part. I'm trying to look in midfielders like progressive carries plus offensive duels 1. Like I'm trying to look at the guys who are winning a high percentage of their offensive duels, like on the ball and progressing it. But I'm trying to find midfielders here. So obviously you have like Declan Rice and Jones and Gravenberch and Tonali, and here's Elliot Anderson, and here's João Gomez. Maybe offensive duels isn't the best measure. Maybe progressive carries isn't the best measure because it's not so much about progressing the ball with the carry. Dribble success rate. Here we go. So these are your more press resistant midfielders. Offensive duels 1, as well as dribble success percentage. So this is the guys. This is where we're crap right now. The guys who are bad on the ball. You know, the guys who are bad on the ball. They're not progressing the play. Well, they're not winning their duels when they're on the ball, or the guys who are, right? Down here, you've got, you know, low dribble success rate, low offensive duels 1. They just cannot dribble with the ball. And up here, you've got the best one. So Adam Wharton is really press resistant as well. He's very good in his progressive passing. He doesn't really drive the ball forward dribbling, but he is a really, really good evader of the press. That's what makes him still kind of a perfect number 6 there, because he can pass and evade the press. João Gomez in a really good spot. Tonali, Baleba, this grouping right here. Tielemans, you kind of know that with Tielemans if you've watched him, that he's very good at that as well as Kamara. Like all of these, I like every one of these names right here, you know, and obviously we've been looking at some more of them and such. So I think this gives you a little bit more of a measure where we could use some upgrades, but I'd be looking definitely in this area for improvements in the team and upgrades in the team there. But it seems like we are. And you take someone like Elliot Anderson, he's not, this is why I keep saying that I think personally Elliot Anderson is definitely an 8. Because you're saying a guy whose strengths are not dribbling out of the press and things like that from deep. He's a really great passer of the ball, and he's very tenacious, and he's very good running around making tackles. Don't sit him right in front of the back 3 and make him a defender who's trying to pick up the ball from deep and evade the press. Get him a lot more forward. That's my opinion. That's my opinion on him for what it's worth. I still very, very strongly see him in the long term as an 8 to get the most out of him. I think the deeper you put him, the more you're limiting his strengths with the ball and all of that as well. So yeah, I like this measurement of them, and we can see that Baleba, João Gomez, and Adam Wharton are all up here. So I think we're on the right track. Now, if we go over to somewhere like this is so funny. This guy, Salis Abdul Samed, he's at Nice now. I made a video about 3 players. I did articles actually and made videos about 3 players in, I want to say 2021, maybe it was 22. And the 3 players, believe it or not, I don't even know why I selected them in the first place back then. It was just sort of like a random thing I did at one point for fun. One of them was Darwin Nunez. The other one was this young German striker who's actually doing quite well. He's recently been doing really well. I can't remember his name now. I'll get back to it. But the other one was Salis Abdul Samed, because I was looking at French league midfielders, and he showed up like crazy on certain stats. in certain numbers in terms of he had this insane efficiency with the ball, and he still has it, to be fair. It's limited minutes, but like he's a really insanely, like, he's not doing anything crazy with the ball. He's not a super progressive passer or dribbler, but he's like Burkhart was the name. Thank you for that. Jonathan Burkhart was the striker, the other striker I was looking at. He had like 100. He had just an insane number of completed passes, and I was just, anyway, it's just interesting to see that. Let's go for like under 25s here. So you get here is our friend. Here's Buwadi. So, you know, in a decent range, but he's only 18. So there's some names in there. If we go to the Bundesliga, I don't know who this is. Interesting. If we go to, so here's Larson, who hasn't been very good, but he was on. Here's Stiller, slightly above average, but in a decent range. Let's look at this. Fermin Lopez, United had looked at him as well, obviously yeah, Burkhart was player of the month last month, wasn't he, for there. Fermin Lopez, we had even looked at him at one point not that long ago. There was some consideration over some kind of swap deal back then, but yeah, there was a big clamor for Agume. He hasn't been that great recently. Arella, interesting. Just sorry, I'm just looking at all these random names. Anyway, going back to under 25s, this is where I would look at. Every one of these I like. João Gomes, Valeba, Tonali, Wharton, Kamara. You could get any of them in the 6, and I like that. But United are looking at them. So I think that gives you a decent idea of the type of profile that United have been looking at in general, is somebody who's good on the ball, can evade the press, and play deep. Yeah. We can't get Fermin Lopez now. He's doing too well. Unfortunately, it's out of our reach now. But yeah, he is. So yeah, I know Anderson can definitely do the 6. No. Salis isn't a great player, Fred. I don't get me wrong. I'm just commenting that I did a profile of him. He was like, he's not that great, but it is what it is. It's just an interesting one to look at. He had some really interesting stats that for some reason just like itched my brain looking at it. Not that he was going to be like special or something, but it was just an interesting one. But yeah, this midfield, you can see what we're looking for. And I would take Baleba, Wharton, Gomez for that deeper role, and I would say someone like Anderson moving forward. He can do a lot of things. Anderson can, but I do think you're limiting him if we put him deeper in the team. So yeah. That's my opinion. So yeah, anyway, it's interesting. I just wanted to kind of discuss this, and I wanted to take a look at this. Is my proposed sort of potential team. Now, I'm not saying this is finished. I'm not saying they're not question marks, but when I look at this team and I look at the starting 11, if we were able to get something like this, obviously we know we're still not sure on this left wing back position, but if we were to get something like this, I would say, God damn. You know, you look at the ages, low 20s, still 4 or 5 years left in their prime years, young, under 25, under 25, under 25, under 25, 25, under 25, under 25, under 25. Like, there are 9 players in that 11 that are under 25. And it's a team that should grow towards the future. Cunha and Mbeumo would be your senior players, which is fine with me. And, you know, obviously of experience. And then on the bench, you've got a lot of experience and guys like Mazraoui and Shaw and things like that. If this was like our next 3 signings got us here, I'm not saying it's done, but if our next 3 signings got us like to a team that looked like this is Lukeba. He's showing up as a different name for using it. It's whatever the system's using his different name. But if our next 3 signings got us looking like this, okay, this is just, for whatever reason, I'll just show you guys. Wrong button. I hate when it does that. Oh my god. Stupid thing. Hold on. Trying to fix my stupid screen because it did something stupid. There we go. Here, I'll just show you who it is. This is who it is. It's the same guy. Castello JR. And obviously you'd have like potentially Lissandro and such in here. Yeah, his name is Castello Luqueba, basically. But yeah, you'd have Aiden Heaven and you'd have Lissandro and other options throughout the team and things like that as well. But if our next three signings put us here, I'd be over the moon. I'd be super, super happy. I'd be ecstatic in looking at this situation and saying, this would be a really good foundation.
Bale go to United, who says no?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, still, Bale goat. Is that Baleba? Look, Baleba still fits what we want, even though he's having a tougher stretch of form. The big question is, what are Brighton going to ask for him right now? That's the big question. That's the thing that could potentially hurt, is given his form, what are United going to be willing to pay and all that? But what do you think? I mean, I'm not saying we don't need more after this, but if you were able to get something like this, it could be Baleba or Wharton or Gomez, it could be Anderson or Ederson or someone like that in there. But if we were able to get something like this, then you look and say, all right, we probably need to figure out a wing back. But we have Amos. Let's see how he does by next year. We have Leon. Let's see how he does by next year. We have Mantato. Let's see how he does by next year. There's a lot of solutions potentially in the academy. Someone like Luqueba could also technically play out there. There are, by the way, a couple of other names that are playing in England right now in the Premier League that play on that left side that United are looking at, but we'll get back to that later. We'll get back to that later because I haven't confirmed yet, and we'll see. But they'd be interesting, right? But you'd look at that and say, okay, maybe we'll have an option there. You look at the forward. You want to see Baleba? That's fine. This could be Baleba. I'm not going to change it just because it's it's kind of annoying. But you could have Baleba right here, it'd be fine. Then you look at the striker situation. Well, if Xerxes doesn't live up to it, but maybe it's Cheeto, maybe it's Kanabiak, maybe we buy an older striker. We'll see. Okay. Maybe, by the way, we get Adeyemi and we stick him out here, because that's what I would do with Adeyemi. I'm not a huge fan of him. I'd rather see someone like Lacey come into the front three if we're going to do that. But if we were interested in Adeyemi, and I'm not confirming those rumors yet because I'm not sure that there's anything in it yet. It looks like it's contract negotiations from Mendes and such. But if there were anything, I'd get Adeyemi and stick him out here as an option at wingback. Obviously, he could be an option at 10 too, but he's pacey as all hell. Throw him out at wingback for me. Get me a winger at wingback. He's fucking fast. Like, he's got crazy pace. Put him out wide. Put him out wide. Put him out wide. That's what I would do. That's it. That's his position. Put Adeyemi out wide. Send him down the line to terrorize teams. Good with me. That's what I would use him for if United got him. And I would suspect that would be certainly something thought of if United do have an interest in him. It would be slightly for that reason. For sure. But I'm not sure of that one. There's some troubles and things and whatever. But yeah, at wingback, I would throw him out there 100%. And it would give you another option. It would be kind of interesting to me. I mean, having to deal with the pace of Adeyemi out wide, Ahmad on the other side, that would be really difficult for teams to stretch their defense to handle. And then you have Mbumo and Cunha and Šeško in the middle. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. No, but I think he's playing for a new contract and all of that as well. But it would be a good idea, that type of thing, and so my point being is, once you would do something like this, then you start to look at these positions and say, well, look, if by next summer Dorgu hasn't kicked on, where's Amos at? Where's Leon at? Where's Mantato at? If there's nobody stepping up to be good enough, then obviously we got to look back at that position and reassess it. Same as it goes in terms of like a backup striker, and the same as it would go in any position that doesn't seem to be working, in that respect. Then you have to look at those positions and say, all right, well, maybe we'll have to go back to one of those. But that's where we want to be. We want to be in a position where we can do it like that, right? We want to be in a position where we're not needing so much in the team. We're just looking and saying, who's not, performing up to the level that we need. And then you go and replace them, or you get an upgrade there. And it's a couple players a year. Because again, you take this team and you take the ages. Every year, you look at this team and go, maybe we just get one world-class player and plonk them in. And one other, and then push somebody else to depth. We're not needing 4, 5, 6 players constantly to try and keep up. We're no longer behind. That's where we could be by the end of summer if we pull this off right. Great age profiles all around. It reminds me a lot of Arsenal. If you look at this team, it looks a lot like, in terms of the age profile and all of that, it's a lot like Arsenal. And in terms of building up to challenge for a title, young players across the board, so they're not having to change it constantly in terms of these huge, like massive changes and things like that. So that's the nice part about this, is if we do it right, it'll be like that, where you can just start to make little upgrades year by year, but you have a very, very young core, not a very young core, but a young core that will grow and improve together in a similar way that Saliba and Gabriel and Saka and all of these players have technically, a lot of cases, improved together. Declan Rice, a lot of them have been improving together, and then you're just making a couple upgrades or downgrades, depending on how you see it, per year with the team, and it's not like a full rebuild all the time. So it's exciting. They got to pull it off. Obviously, it'd be really nice if we could get any of this done in January.
What makes Gomez better than Baleba BTW? Baleba is better than him. The club wants Baleba, so don't know where this Gomez agenda comes from.
What agenda? It's just an option. Baleba is better than Gomez, probably. Well, I don't know if he actually is yet, but he probably will be. He's significantly younger, less experienced, hasn't had really a long stretch of being tops. Should Baleba be better than Gomez? Yes. Is he today? I don't think so. And then you have the problem of how much money he's going to cost at that point in time. It's just an alternative. Like, Gomez is probably potentially much more available than Baleba. That we just don't know. If Brighton might sit there and say, you know what, whatever, we're going to hold out for 100 million on Baleba because he think he's going to get better again in the future, and nobody will buy him, and he'll stay at Brighton. That might be the case. We don't know. We have to have alternatives. We might lose out to him. We might lose out to Wharton or something like that if we go for other alternatives. We're not going to spend 100 million on Baleba. So at the end of the day, it comes down to Brighton. If they'll accept 50, 60 million, 65 million for him, we'll get him. If they won't, then we won't. And we'll have to get alternatives in that option, and getting someone like Gomez for 40 million, allowing us to get another midfielder. We can always upgrade later and have a squad, Gomez, Kabi, another midfielder. We can always do that in the long term. And that would be the ideal plan. But Gomez is an option that they've been considering for some time. He's smart. And in the end, I think we'll need to sign 3 midfielders between next summer and the following. I think we'll need 3 midfielders because we're going to have to replace Bruno and Casemiro and Ugarte. We need at least 3 midfielders, And yes, then there's Orozco, and maybe he's one of those as well. So we'll see. But I don't want to count my chickens yet on young players, even though Orozco is very, very highly rated by the club, and he's someone they're very excited about. So look, we just need a platoon of midfielders. And let me just make one other small point here. Just imagine, for imagination's sake, that someday it doesn't work out with Ruben Amorim. You need to have more than 4 midfielders in your 25-man squad. You have to. You just have to. And United are certainly cognizant of that. You've got to have more than... If we end up switching to a 3-man midfield at some point in the future, and we know obviously Wilcox is still somebody who of course is thinking with, 3-man midfield and things, just saying, if we ever moved on from Amram, or somehow down the line he said, you know what? I'm gonna switch things up. I've decided to evolve the team now into a 4-3-3, and we can do it this way, and I like it like this. Well, either way, we need more than 4 midfielders on the roster. Imagine that tomorrow Ruben Amorim said, I quit. And we had a manager who played a 3-man midfield. And all we have in our roster is Bruno, Casemiro, Kabi, and Ugarte. We're fucked. That is not a squad that can play in a 3-man midfield. It's dead. It's dead. There's nothing we can do with that. That midfield is going to be killed. In fact, the fact that we're playing a 2-man midfield right now is probably a blessing with the squad that we have. Cunha's a 10. Okay, who plays left wing? Mason Mount? We're just gonna create more and more problems. You know what I mean? Like it would be, to me, a bit of a mess, right? So. But they're cognizant of that. And it's not even just about Amorim. We need to invest in the midfield. We need a lot of players in the midfield. We should have 5, 6 good options in the midfield at any given time. But also just the simple fact that, Bruno will be going on someday. When we're getting, when we're going into Europe again, 4 is the minimum we need to have. 4 is the absolute minimum we need to have. That is the minimum that we need to have is to have 4 for a 2-man midfield. Really, we should have 5 or 6. 1 injury, and you need others. So if Orozco is the 5th midfielder, and we've got Kabi and 3 signings, I'm happy with that too. So yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah, we gotta try. I really hope we do try, because we can get Champions League. And it's not just about the money, right? If we get Champions League, it also helps our case. I'm not saying it's Champions League or nothing, or like players, we should be signing players that wouldn't join us without Champions League, but it's better to remove all doubt. If you have Champions League, you don't have to test that theory of whether they would join you without Champions League. You can just get them. Because they're going to be teams competing for all of our targets that have Champions League. City, potentially Chelsea, potentially Liverpool, potentially Arsenal. Like, all of them are probably going to be competing for our midfield targets. Madrid even. Like, it'd be nice to have something as an extra boost to our conversation, to add to the discussion. It could help. It can't hurt. It can't hurt. I mean, it's to me, it's like, it's all very practical to say we want everybody who will join us without Champions League. But the longer you're out in the wild, the longer you're out in the cold, the longer you're out of Champions League, the less the guys who are like, like I say, it's all well and good for them to say Champions League doesn't matter. But I guarantee you that Cunha and Bumo and them, they think we'll be back in Champions League soon. The more years that go by, the more players are going to be like, maybe not. Maybe fucking not. Maybe you won't be back in Champions League soon, and then it gets a bit more complicated. So it's easy right now to say they all would have joined without Champions League, because they did, but maybe it's not that simple as well. Because obviously they had a feeling United would be on the way back, but the longer you take to getting back, the less everybody's going to believe in it. So just, you got to consider that. I mean, people aren't stupid, so we just need to think about that a little bit. So yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts. Watch the video earlier. I really like, I think it was really good to make. We'll be referring to it a lot. We'll be coming back to it a lot. We'll be looking at that a lot. I'll be pulling on those names and things like that a lot. Check it out after this. It's only 25, 30 minutes long. Watch it today, watch it tomorrow, watch it whenever. But it should be really, really good. Yeah, I'm interested in the idea of Anderson and Gomez because I think in both cases, I think you could get in the end potentially both for like 120. That'd be a hell of a way to rebuild the midfield with Premier League proven players and all of that. I'd be real excited about that. Really, really excited about that. If you cannot get, Baleba at a fair price, I think you end up with a real possibility with those two. But if we can get into Champions League, then I think we have a better case than anybody in the whole Premier League right now. That's my opinion. For a young player to join, because we don't have an established midfield. For Chelsea, you're going to be fighting with a lot of them. For City, there's a lot of players in that squad. For Liverpool, they've got a whole bunch of midfielders in there as well that they've spent a lot of money on. Same goes for Arsenal. United, the spot's up for grabs. This is one of the same reasons we were able to convince Mbeumo and Cunha. Next year, those midfield spots, they can come in for them. And it's like, these are yours for the next 10 years if you come in and nail this thing down. So we'll see. But that excites me quite a lot. That does excite me quite a lot. Next summer, Anderson, Gomez, top center back, I don't know who yet, coming into the team, nailing their spots down for the next 5, 8, 10 years. It's a good deal. It's a good deal. Probably alone, but hoping for Gallagher and Wharton. Interesting. I like Wharton a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty happy on everybody. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm pretty happy with virtually anyone of our names. Like when I look at, I'll tell you who I don't like. I'll tell you. Let me just go back and let's take a look at this really quick. And I'll tell you who I don't like. All right. If anybody. I like Buadi. I think he has good high potential. You definitely need a second midfielder to go with him. I quite like Yeoman. I think he would improve us a lot. Yarmouk, I think, is a very, very good 6, but certainly the most limited player on this list. Gomez, Baleba, Wharton, Anderson. I would take absolutely any of them. Different roles, different ideas, but they would all be really, really good. I would take practically anybody on this list, especially since we want 2. I would take basically anybody on this list. On here, I really like Ederson. I always have. I'm okay with a loan for Gallagher in January if that's all we can do. That's about it. I don't think I'd like anybody else. In terms of the center backs, I'd be happy. I have big doubts on Inacio, even though I love Sporting and loved watching him play under Amorim there. Big doubts there. And Braithwaite with his injuries and stuff, it feels like it's too big a risk unless he has a fantastic second half of the season. But I'd be happy with any of these center backs as well. So the names that I know of, at least, I'm happy with. I might have little preferences one day or another, or things like that, but it also has to be on the right price. That's really important for a lot of these guys. Like Baleba. I like Baleba. With what we're seeing, he's way, way, way too risky to be paying 70, 80, 90 million. Would not go anywhere near that. If you can get him for 50 to 60, you have a potential really, really, really high value player. A really, really good player. Tabast is the man. I really like Tabast. I think he could become one of the best center backs in football. He's so good on the ball as well, and we need that as the next phase of things. It's really, really important. Well, I can't add Ballard to the list unless we know he's scouting him. Like that, those lists are combined with those lists are my info plus info that's out there. I don't know of any solid information saying that we're looking at Ballard yet. I mean, I could probably add like Nathan Collins onto there, but we'll certainly be adjusting that list. That's not a made up list. The lists I put in that video are lists where there is concrete as far as my understanding, evidence or knowledge of United having them on the radar in some capacity or another. So they're all real names in some capacity or another. It could be very minimal. It could be at this stage of the season, it could be virtually nothing, but they're all real in that respect. So if we get new ones at center back, midfield that are solid, we'll toss them in there. And if ones get eliminated, we'll eliminate them. And if I hear, and like I said, there's a couple more center backs or defenders that I'm looking at, but that I don't want to add on yet, that I would want to double confirm first as well. Okay, I'm going to end it there, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Appreciate you all. Thank you for your surviving this dead international break, but we'll be busy with games when we come back. Hopefully every 4 or 5 days, we're going to be cooking. All right. But thank you all for hanging out with me today. Please make sure you watch the video earlier. I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate all the support. Appreciate everything. Please do as well. Smash a like on the video on the way out. Actually a pretty good number considering the lower kind of viewership during these breaks. So really good on the likes. Thank you guys very much for your support in that. And enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back in some form tomorrow. Probably have another couple little collaboration videos tomorrow or Saturday that will be coming out. So keep an eye out for that. And I will catch you all later. Have a good one, everybody. Goodbye.